Hey, everybody. Ivan Painter from Intellisys back at you. We are in the second half of our network and cybersecurity hot seat. And with me today, as a continuation, I have Mr. Dave Nudie, Mr. Ray Watson, and Mr. Michael Gray. Open Systems, Masergy, and Thrive. These are probably some of my really good suppliers and actually really good friends as well. So with that, we left off, Dave, you had talked about, or you made mention of a key word, and I'll love to play with it. And I had posted something out to LinkedIn not too well, it was a while ago, that we have suppliers that were SASE before SASE was SASE. So let's just talk about SASE just for a second. Run us down there on exactly what is SASE and why do we care?
Yeah, SASE is not a product, right? You're not going to go out and buy SASE. SASE is a strategy, and it's about the convergence of security, the security and network layer, and many components of it, and unifying that in a single platform that is cloud native and able to be deployed anywhere. So it gives the ability to set a unified set of rules and policy. Not just around routing and path selection and application performance enhancement, but also around security, access, policy. And it's just, at the end of the day, the average enterprise has north of 40 suppliers in their environment, and it's been their job to try and service chain to unify that, automate it, hire the staff, and go through construction projects. And what SASE really articulates to the market is the growing demand in the way that enterprises are already executing in unifying those platforms and preventing those technology silos from existing on their own, but making sure that understanding the benefit of when one side can see the other and what that can really mean for agility and deployment at the enterprise. And we're seeing it all around us. It's not just Gartner creating the category. You can see it in the acquisitions and the technology partnerships that are taking place. Everyone's working in that direction.
Yeah. So truly a level of integration that we have not seen before, or maybe we actually have, because it's been around for a while, but it's just been categorized at this point. Do you agree?
Absolutely. For us, we feel like it's the greatest market validation of all time. For us, we feel like we're a decade ahead of it. It's what our customers have pulled us into becoming as a company.
Gotcha.
So it's not that we were Nostradamus. We were working directly with our customers for the last 20 years. And so when you look at what we are today, it checks an awful lot of those boxes. So we enjoy it because we don't have to, as a company, articulate that to the market any longer. There's just so much activity around it that we can point to as validation.
And I'm sure my other two guests here are just biting at the chomp to add on, because I think both of them have that level of integration as well. Mike, you and I had a conversation not too long ago. We did a late night, and we also talked about how really to position Thrive. And I kind of came up with the revolution or the inkling that Thrive's not really either a security player or a network player. You guys are more of an integrator, and I thought that was phenomenal. Why don't we discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that Dave is getting at is, we can have developers crank out code and build unbelievable technology, but if you don't have a well-packaged solution to go around it, the technology is only as good as the people that are operating it, right? And we want to pare down that need for the human to be there clicking the button. But at some point, it's technology plus service. And, kind of we were touching on there late night in the security center. Is that what it was?
Late night in the control center.
The control center. That's what it was. Yeah. And it was a late night. What we really try and think about is, Thrive has solutions that we can offer to customers. We've been doing this for quite a long time. We're not going to force people into a bucket if they already have a solution that's working for them. So we're going to try and build around them. We're going to try and help them plug in where their gaps are. Of course, we would like to have everybody use everything from our stack, but reality would tell you those things takes time. Security roadmaps takes time. And I like what Dave said about their construction projects, right? Well, it takes a lot to build a building. It takes a lot to build a solid security program.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, Ray, you're dying to jump in here. I want to steal a little bit of your thunder. I know that Masergy has recently come out, well, maybe not too recently, but has come out with a new platform or product where you actually have a SIM type application within the SDN WAN itself. Why don't you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Yeah, so at Masergy, we really only do three things: connect, protect, and collaborate. That's really all that we do. And the security aspects of the SD-WAN side is so tightly integrated that you can still technically buy naked SD-WAN from me without security features to it. But 99% of our customers are going to end up using at least some of the threat monitoring and response components, to the point where we're now just assuming that everyone does. Because studies show that when we talk about SD-WAN deployments, security is by far the number one concern that people have about that. And that was pre-COVID pandemic. So it's only become more so, past or post-pandemic as well.
Yeah, more prevalent. Absolutely. So tell me about the integration, with the network and security that you guys have going on. Exactly. How does that work?
Yeah, so the biggest kind of revolutionary changes that we've done in that space is we've deployed something called AI Ops, which is artificial intelligent operations, which is ticket automation, resolution, and prediction. Okay. So we're actually using a virtual network engineer to make predictions as to how people can optimize things occur. And we built this in for all of our customers, and we're doing it for no additional charge. That was kind of the biggest force multiplier change, so to speak, in addition to that. But we're also doing a lot more with integration with existing platforms that the customer already has. For example, their IDS or their IPS as well. Security sales can be a little bit complicated, but there's an old expression in the security world that the easiest way to get somebody to really care about fires is to burn the building across the street down, right? And unfortunately, there's a lot of buildings being burned down right now.
Yeah, there are, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Dave, your background is driving me crazy. So why don't you tell everybody, what are we looking at behind you? I know that we probably want to keep you centered, but explain to us really what is going on back there.
Yeah, it's a live feed of our security operations center team handling tickets in real time for our customers. And Mike really made a very important point. There's kind of two big conversation points that I see around security today is simplification through convergence of technologies. And Mike nailed it, that the technology alone is not enough. It's as good as the day you put it on the ground. If you don't have the team and the automation for continuous monitoring, detection and response, to be able to take what you learn in a real-time basis and reapply it back to the technology layer. That's the essence of a complete security model. And for open systems, that's something that we've been investing in for 20 years now. We acquired a Scuba, an analytics company, some time ago. And this morning we just announced, hey, breaking news on your event here. We just announced the acquisition of Born in the Cloud, to further our footprint into cloud-based architecture, automation, and transitioning on security platforms, in particular for Azure and some of the partnership work that we've been doing with Microsoft. So we continue to invest in that. And so, showing something like this, to Ray's point, we have 150 engineers, but at the end of the day, you've got to invest in automation that doesn't replace people, but allows you to get the most out of the people who are working on the network. So, 90% of what we see is auto-resolve through, automated ticket handling and detection, and that knowledge base continues to expand. But then we've got 150 DevOps engineers at level 3 and above that are first line support for our customers, that operate out of what we call our mission control security operations centers around the world.
Yeah, and I had the fortune to partake in one of them right before we got locked down not too long ago. So that was quite interesting. You actually jumped in on one of the questions that I was going to ask. Open seems to be came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden you're here. But that's not true. You guys have been around for quite some time, and the like. So it's a great operation center as well, and I learned a lot while I was there. So you know what, Mike, I'm going to come back to you, and I'm going to address this to all of y'all. Quite often, I feel like suppliers, or not suppliers, but partners will latch on to a particular provider and stay in that realm. But my thought is that not every supplier, you've got to find the right fit for that particular client. So let's talk about fit for a second. So, Mike, what is the fit for Thrive?
Yeah, so we're primarily at this point in the mid-market. Someone with a larger environment. I think one of the main things that I want to drive home about Thrive, and it's interesting. I think if you ask some of our customers about who we are, they might give you some different answers, right? There might be a company that looks at us as, well, they do my DR. Well, the truth of the matter is, cloud, DR, cybersecurity, those are really the big three for us. And when somebody comes to us and says, hey, I want to secure my DR, well, we're ready to have that conversation for you as well. Right. So, someone that is looking to move their business forward and they're taking a step back and looking at the entire stack and saying, all right, where are my gaps and what do I need to improve? That's where Thrive can come in and not only, manage it, but the big thing we do is that we'll assess it as it is. Sort of just take that unbiased view of what's going on and what's working and what's not.
Sure.
Again, a lot of people have made investments and they want to know, was this a good move? Yes or no? Like, give me your real opinion of this. And
Right.
a lot of times we find that, people have some hidden gems inside their stack that we can make use of or help them along. And then, of course, there are other times where there's things that they were missing that they had no idea, right? So we want to sort of drive those outcomes home for them and really improve things on a quick pace.
Yeah, I think that gap analysis is extremely important. And I really like for a lot of my partners who might be a little bit uneasy about security to actually really think about that. It's a great lead in for anybody who's just not heavily secure within security itself, because there's so many acronyms. So what about you, Ray? What do you think that the best fit for Masergy is?
I could tell you that it's Global 2000 or companies between $1 and $100 billion in revenue. But a better way to look at it is to tell you kind of what Masergy is.
Okay.
We're definitely a premium geeky product. I would say that we're probably the Tesla of communication providers, right? Super duper nerdy, lots of bells and features. Can be expensive, but in many cases it cannot, right? And we have both offerings on both ends of that spectrum. But our customers tend to be global. Our customers tend to be pretty savvy when it comes to technology. And our customers tend to need to move very, very fast. So that agility really is the unifying characteristic across our customer base.
Gotcha. That was a great answer, Ray. Thank you. Very succinct. Dave, what about you?
Enter more sites, 500 or more users, and no ceiling on it. And one thing I'll point out is we don't engage anyone that's at a greenfield situation where everyone's a jagged edge. There's a jagged edge on CapEx investments, on subscriptions they're obligated to. So the ability to coexist with those existing investments and not come in over the top and say I have to rip and replace everything. But no, I can absolutely have the automation to leverage what you already have in place and help you get more out of it. And then provide you a roadmap that will give you an option down the road when that does expire. Should you want to continue down that path and reinvest in another round of equipment or leverage a managed services platform as an alternative. So we're extremely flexible in that regard, and because we cast such a wide net of services and capabilities that oftentimes people will look at us and think it's just a menu of stuff that we sell, and we actually sell one platform. It's Open Systems, and it has all of that fully integrated in, but we're able to narrow that down to handle the capabilities that are relevant right out of the gate, and then have an interesting conversation for road mapping, moving forward.
Yeah, I think Mike really kind of nailed it out. I've never seen a client come in and just like you said, was completely greenfield. There's always some piece of apparatus that's sitting out there, whether good, bad, or indifferent, and they've already made that investment. So what they want to see is that return on that investment, because they're going to go to that CFO and he's going to go, well, I just gave you $10,000 for this device. How are you going to integrate that in to this platform? Ray, I know that Masergy has that ability, and I definitely know that Open System has that ability. Let's talk about that a little bit, gentlemen. What are we seeing that the customers usually have when they get over their skis and they really have, decide it's time to go to a managed service?
I'll tell you what, I think Dave made a great point about there being no greenfields. but that's even more so true now, right? If we think
Okay.
about the consolidation and the business changes and the effects of work from home and everything else that's happening now because of COVID, it's even more so, okay? And ultimately, at the end of the day, prior to this, the number one thing that we saw when we were brought in for security services is that the customer already had stuff.
Yeah.
They just weren't using it correctly, right? They had features that had never been enabled. They had logging that was going to the wrong systems or the wrong services, or they had things that hadn't been patched since, Obama was president or whatever else, right? So in many, many cases, it's simply a matter of helping customers use what they have better and smarter. And in order to do that, you really do have to answer with people. It's human beings that can do that. I mean, I wish I could tell you there was a magical widget that would make all vendors interoperate at an API level. But at the end of the day, you do need security operations centers to do that heavy lifting so that the customer can do the smart lifting.
And I think that's a real key that a lot of us really, or a lot of clients really need to understand. They get out there and they start looking around, because no client comes to you anymore without any knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody can Google anything that they want. But the one thing that I think most of them miss is the human factor.
Sure.
I know the CISO from, I believe it was Google, stated that the one factor, if she could have for anything, would be more human capital. And I think that's the thing. And there, we all know, because we're all in security, that's where the degradation lies, right? The amount of people that are truly available for security are a very thin bucket, right? So what are we seeing moving forward, Mike? We started talking about an exit plan, and, I'm not so sure that there's ever truly going to be an exit plan. I think that this is I hate to use the word new normal, but it's going to be the new normal. So what are we starting to see? How are we progressing forward in that realm? What is Thrive doing moving forward?
Yeah. So, I saw this, I saw a picture a couple weeks ago of, these pictures of empty airplanes. And I know these gentlemen fly around quite a bit, as do you. And I started thinking about these empty airplanes, and, what I came to realize about security operations is we're always trying to understand what's normal, right? What things are happening that are normal and what are anomalies. Well, we're in a rare time right now where, for the most part, everyone's in their home country. We have normal's pretty straightforward, right? So one of the things we're encouraging customers to do, and really anybody out there, is, now's a good time to turn on geographic blocking, right? Maybe there was some hesitation in the past of, well, my CEO, I'm not quite sure where he's going to be the day we turn this stuff on. So now is actually a really good time to ratchet up some of those controls. Mm-hmm. You've got your employees' attention, right? It's kind of easy to get in touch with people, believe it or not, on Zoom. And then the other thing I'd say as far as the reopening is, now's a really good time to, if you were thinking about upgrading the firewalls in those offices, well, why don't the day after you get your office cleaned, why don't you put that new firewall in that you've been putting off for a little while? It's a rare time, I think, in IT, because, God forbid the pandemic happens again, we're going to be so much more prepared than we ever were before. Absolutely. Right? So this is a small window to take a step back. Hey, before we jump in to the office, can we wait a couple more days and upgrade our security controls? And I'm not even just talking about, networking, but hey, maybe your security badging system, right? You can put it in, you won't interrupt business, So there's a lot of things you could do right before your office opens to really increase your security and not impact your end users.
No, that's a very interesting proposition too, because you figure that we all have to take some type of precautions, and we've seen a lot of different things that are coming into place. So, even they can take your temperature via certain mechanisms as you badge in, as you walk through the main entry, or even via retina scan. So absolutely. Dave, what are you seeing on that side of the house?
Well, I think the way that you execute well in security is you operate as if you're in a constant state of breach, right? You're never done. If you operate with that type of vigilance, but the challenge is the people factor and the knowledge base and the ability and Ray, I saw you speak one time. I think your number is 3.1 million open job requisitions. You may have updated your slides since then. In cybersecurity, that can't be filled. And we had a customer we actually closed during the pandemic in charge of 35,000 users, who looked at our team and said, "I have no business being in the security business." And I asked him he's a CISO, and I asked him to say, what do you mean by that? He said, "Look, the way I'm measured is not by how many boxes can I buy, how many people can I hire, can I build a SOC, can I put in AI, people don't ask me those questions. They ask me, is our intellectual property secure? Are our users secure? Is the application performance allowing our users to do their job effectively, safely, and securely? Those are the questions I'm asked. And he said, the best cybersecurity engineers want to come work for you, Open Systems. They don't want to come work for me. He said, so why would I try and do that myself when you have a model that gives me access to that expertise? We have a product management guy on our MDR side of the house, and he says something great. He says, you know what, the bad guys collaborate all the time. The way they're trying to breach you, they're sharing resources and ideas and tools and engines. They constantly collaborate. Why aren't the good guys collaborating? Why aren't you working with an expert like one of the companies on this call right here to be a force multiplier in your ability to protect yourself when the bad guys are all teaming up to try to get in? And when you come at it from that viewpoint, I think it just makes a whole lot of sense. It's why on earth would I try and do this myself when I can leverage some of the resources that are available.
And it's a smart play at the end of the day, because with all three of you guys, or all three of your organizations, are going to see a lot more information and receive that data from multiple sources, where an individual client is just going to have whatever's in their silo. So, and not only that, but also equipment-wise, Ray, so we've taken so many pieces of what we had as a network before, and then now we've dispersed them throughout, the world for the most part. As Mike said, we're in our home country. It kind of makes it difficult to keep tabs on them. Have you seen an uplift in that direction towards an EDR type solution, an endpoint detection?
Yeah, Ivan, I think Dave made a fantastic point about, and I know you know this because you've got more security certifications than a Russian alphabet has letters, but Dave made a very, very interesting point that in the last few years, we've stopped thinking in terms of stopping every attack and instead started focusing on assuming you've already been breached.
Yep.
Well, I've actually seen the same thing with ransomware in the last 12 months. So we no longer try to stop all ransomware. Now companies need to be doing tabletop exercises for what do you do when it does happen.
Sure.
Because it will inevitably happen to most companies. Maybe not all, but certainly most will eventually be dealing with that private problem. And I think that maturity and that type of thinking forward is one of the reasons why companies really need to partner with an MSSP or a managed service provider, because they can keep up with the threat intelligence, the dark web, all of the evolving threats, the nation states, the script kiddies, you name it, and basically help the customer stay ahead of those types of attacks and then mitigate them when they do occur.
It's interesting, Ray. I know you and I are in the same state, great state of Texas, and the DOJ right now, the DOT is currently under ransomware. I believe as of yesterday.
Twice, two times.
Yeah. So, it's remarkable that is still occurring. And then now today, Microsoft issued a warning about a massive amount of phishing attacks. So, these are the things that we have to be constantly cognizant over. And the agility from any managed security service, I think you both or all three made a valid point. You're going to get more data and more information by utilizing an MSP or an MSSP or an MDR versus going it yourself. Now, so with that thought in mind, I know I've worked on a few accounts that have had, they've got a handful of, these are my security guys, but they also have to do the break fixes. How do we keep everybody in that organization engaged? I want all of you to address this. How is it that you are able to keep them engaged as well at some level of transparency so they can really see what's going on with their environment? What do you think, Ray? You're up on the big screen.
Yeah, well, I think that the number one way is to provide them actionable intelligence, and that includes analytics, graphs like what you see Dave has behind him, a lot of actionable reports. You don't want to flood them with info. I mean, the classic story around this is that Sony Pictures had 20,000 warnings that they'd been breached, but when you have 20,000 warnings, you kind of tune them out, right? Yeah. So I think having actionable intelligence and putting it in business terms is kind of the key to keeping engagement.
Yeah, I totally agree. Target did the same thing. There were so many trees before the forest that they just said, "Oh well, we don't have anything." Dave, I saw you nodding your head. What do you got?
It's about outcomes, not alerts, right? It's so easy to get overwhelmed. I went through an Intellisys event and listened to a keynote speaker who is a CISO, and their company name is emblazoned on a stadium here in the Bay Area, and they had a SIM in place that they couldn't use. They weren't even using it, but because of a regulation, if an inspector came in, they could check mark the box and said they had one, even though it was just sitting there collecting dust. So it's this stuff is extremely difficult, and to empower our customers on it is we're providing them actionable insight and outcomes to shape their policy and their business around, and completely filtering out the noise. That was a big part of a joint webinar we did with Microsoft and our partnership we have for Azure Sentinel, and pairing that with our managed detection and response and everything that enables with it. That the visibility tools that we have with our customers, I think that's a great thing about these portals, is that what you're usually looking at is an accumulation of best practice accumulated by the end customers that shapes what those things are today. And in our case, we have 20 years of that feedback that's already matured and ready to go. So for a new customer, they're kind of seeing what 20 years of customers have told us they want to see, the way they want to see it, the reporting they want, the automation, the dashboards, everything that empowers them to make go forward decisions. It's not people replacement, it's people enhancement, because it's just gotten so complex and so diverse over the last few years.
You've got to utilize that technology for it, because the amount of events or alarms that are out there, we have alarm paralysis, and they're just going to shut them off, just like Ray was talking about not too long ago. Mike, we talked about how Thrive is able to integrate all these different things, and you guys are really just a connection point when it comes to just a vast amounts of data. But what is the customer seeing in return back from that? I know quite a few of them want to be able to give something. Well, so you have a CISO or you have an IT guy that wants to give something back to the board. What value are you giving there?
So listening to Dave and Ray talk, there's an interesting phrase in IT security that you might hear somebody say, which is a little scary, but I've never seen this before. This attack, and that's scary, right? Well, that depends, because what else have you seen? If you haven't seen a lot, then a lot of things are new to you, right? So, leveraging deep expertise and getting access, as Dave was saying, to knowledge from experts, a very powerful thing. Thrive's been doing co-managed IT for close to 20 years now. And we do co-managed security the exact same way. The primary thing that we look to do is be one team between Thrive's engineering, Thrive services, Thrive technology, and the customer's team. So it's actually one unit. And, we find that in those situations, the customer technical people can offer us context that we cannot get on day one. Right. So they can tell me things about users that it would take me a long time to teach an engineer. Right. So, that's kind of interesting. And then, I mentioned a few times in our previous talks about our IT management platform, which is ServiceNow. And that's actually how we gel the teams together. We actually use the IT management platform to create one unit who's responding to events.
That's a really cool integration you guys have. So once again, they're pulling out the hook on me. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to speak with all three of you. Kind of feels like old home week. I see Ray shining. Dave, I haven't seen you in forever. Mike, you and I had a conversation not too long ago. I honestly do miss you guys, and hopefully we'll be able to see each other real soon, 6 feet away with a mask on. But you guys stay safe, and I appreciate your knowledge and your due diligence. For everybody else that's out there, take a look at the Resource Center. There's a lot of great information out there. This is Ivan from Intellisys. If there's any time I can help you reach one of these guys, give me a call. There's a vast amount of knowledge sitting right here. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ivan.
Thanks, Ivan.
Take care. Stay secure.